Welcome everyone to this deep exploration into one of the most powerful forces in human history, the philosophy. Today's journey is not just about ancient thinkers or old books, it is about the ideas that silently shaped civilizations, transformed leadership, changed governments, influenced religion, built economies, and completely altered the way humans understand life itself. Every society that exists today is built on invisible systems of thoughts created centuries ago. Humans may believe they are acting independently, but most decisions people make are deeply influenced by philosophical ideas inherited from previous generations. Throughout history, philosophies have inspired empires, revolutions, scientific discoveries, wars, spiritual movements, leadership systems, and social structures. Some philosophies created peace, others created competition, some encouraged discipline, others encouraged freedom, but all of them permanently changed human thinking forever. In this video, we will explore 10 philosophies that transformed the world and continue influencing the modern society, leadership, psychology, success, and human identity even today. By the end of this journey, you may begin seeing the modern world through a completely different lens because ideas shape civilizations long before actions do. Many people think philosophy belongs only in the classrooms or history books, but philosophy still controls modern life in ways most people never realized. Every law, every leadership system, every economic model, every educational structure, and every social belief is rooted in the philosophy. Politics is philosophy in action. Leadership is philosophy in action. Education systems are built upon philosophical beliefs about intelligence and discipline. Religion itself is deeply connected to philosophical questions about morality, suffering, existence, and purpose. Even modern debates about freedom, equality, success, and human rights are philosophical battles underneath the surface. Entire societies behave differently because they follow different philosophical foundations. Some cultures value collective harmony while others prioritize individual freedom. Some nations reward competition while others prioritize equality and stability. Businesses also operate through philosophy. One company may believe people are motivated by money, while another believes purpose and emotional connection matters more. Social media algorithms even reflect philosophical assumptions about human attention, behavior, and the desire. Philosophy is invisible, but it silently shapes human civilization every single day. The modern world may appear technological, but beneath the technology lies philosophy controlling the human behavior. The word philosophy comes from the Greek phrase meaning love of wisdom, but philosophy is much deeper than simply collecting information or becoming knowledgeable. Philosophy is humanity's attempt to understand existence itself. Philosophers throughout history asked questions that science alone could not fully answer. The questions like what is truth, what creates happiness, what is justice, why do humans suffer, what makes a meaningful life, does morality exist naturally or is it created by the society, why do humans fear death, how should humans alive? Philosophy explores both the external world and the internal human mind. It studies logic, ethics, reality, knowledge, meaning, consciousness, and morality. Unlike temporary trends, philosophical questions remain timeless because human beings continuously struggle with the same emotional and psychological challenges across generations. Ancient humans feared uncertainty just like modern humans do today. Ancient civilizations struggle with power, identity, leadership, and suffering just like modern societies still struggle today. Technology evolved dramatically, but the human psychology remains deeply connected to philosophical questions that have existed for thousands of years. Philosophy therefore became the foundation of science, politics, religion, leadership, and civilization itself. So it became one of the most respected philosophies in the human history because it directly addressed emotional suffering and mental strength. Founded in ancient Greece and later embraced by Roman leaders, Stoicism teaches one powerful idea: control what you can and accept what you can't. This sounds simple on the surface, but psychologically it is extremely difficult. Humans naturally try to control everything: outcomes, opinion, relationships, success, reputation, and future uncertainty. But the Stoics believed this obsession creates emotional instability. According to Stoicism, external events are often outside human control, but internal responses remain within the human control. A Stoic person focuses on the discipline, emotional resilience, self control, and the rational thinking instead of panic and emotional chaos. Stoic philosophers believed suffering becomes worse when humans resist reality emotionally instead of responding it wisely. This philosophy became especially important for the leaders, soldiers, rulers, and the thinkers because it helped them remain calm during uncertainty, failure, and criticism and the crisis. Stoicism teaches humans that true power is not controlling the world but controlling themselves. In a chaotic world filled with emotional reactions, Stoicism became the philosophy of inner strength. Modern society experiences enormous emotional pressure. People constantly compare themselves online, fear failure, seek validation, panic about uncertainty, and emotionally collapse under the stress. And this is why Stoicism has become extremely popular again in the modern life. Entrepreneurs use this term to survive business uncertainty. Athletes use stoicism to maintain focus under pressure. Leaders use stoicism to remain calm during crisis. Even psychologists use stoic principle in the modern therapy systems because Stoicism teaches emotional regulation and the rational thinking. Modern humans often try to control things they cannot control: other people's opinions, social media reactions, economic instability, unexpected failures, or unpredictable future events. Stoicism teaches that emotional peace comes from focusing energy only on what can actually be influenced. One of the most powerful Stoic lessons says you can't control the storm, but you can control yourself. This philosophy does not eliminate pain, but it prevents emotional destruction caused by panic and overreaction. In many ways, Stoicism became one of the most practical survival philosophies for the modern world. Confucianism emerged in ancient China and became one of the most influential social philosophies in the world history. Created by Confucius, this philosophy focused on ethics, discipline, education, morality, family respect, and social harmony. Unlike philosophies centered mainly on individual freedom, Confucianism emphasized collective stability and responsible behavior within the society. Confucius believed civilization survives only when humans behave ethically towards one another. Leaders should lead morally. Children should respect their parents. Citizens should behave responsibly. Education should develop character, not just intelligence. Confucianism strongly influenced Asian societies for centuries, shaping governance systems, educational structures, leadership styles, and the family traditions. Even today, many societies influenced by Confucian values emphasize discipline, respect for elders, academic achievement, and collective responsibility. Confucianism teaches that without ethical leadership and social responsibility, societies slowly become unstable and chaotic. It is not merely a philosophy about rules, it is a philosophy about preserving civilization itself through moral behavior. Existentialism became one of the most psychologically intense philosophies in the modern history because it directly confronted human freedom, responsibility, and the meaning. Existentialist thinkers argued that life doesn't automatically provide the purpose. Humans must create meaning themselves. This realization created both freedom and the fear simultaneously. Existentialism asks difficult personal questions. Who am I? Why do I exist? What gives life meaning? What should I do with my life? Existentialist philosophers believed humans often avoid responsibility by blindly following the society, traditions, or external expectations. But true existence requires individuals to consciously choose their own values and direction. This philosophy became highly influential during periods of war, social instability, loneliness, and modern identity crisis because humans increasingly felt disconnected from traditional systems of meaning. Existentialism reveals an uncomfortable truth. Freedom creates responsibility. Humans are free to choose their lives, but they must also accept responsibility for those choices. This realization can feel empowering or psychologically overwhelming depending on how individuals confront it. Modern society reflects existential struggles everywhere. Millions of people silently question their identity, purpose, relationships, direction, and the self worth. Social media intensified this crisis because humans constantly compare their lives with the others. People feel pressured to appear successful, attractive, productive, and socially accepted while internally feeling emotionally lost. Existentialism became deeply relevant because it explains modern loneliness and identity confusion. Many people achieve external success yet still feel emotionally empty because external achievement alone can't automatically create the meaning. Existentialist philosophy teaches that meaning must be consciously built through responsibility, authenticity, purpose, and personal values. Freedom itself becomes psychologically heavy because humans must decide how to live rather than simply follow predetermined paths. Modern humans therefore experience both enormous freedom and enormous psychological pressure. simultaneously. Existentialism helps explain why modern societies experience rising emotional exhaustion despite technological advancement. Buddhism introduced one of the deepest understandings of human suffering ever developed. Its central teaching states that suffering comes from attachment and desire. Humans became emotionally attached to outcomes, relationships, identity, success, material possessions, expectations, and control. When reality fails to match those attachments, suffering emerges. Buddhism teaches mindfulness, awareness, compassion, emotional balance, and inner peace. Instead of constantly chasing external validation and endless desire, Buddhism encourages humans to observe their thoughts, emotions, and attachments carefully. This philosophy transformed the millions of lives across Asia and eventually spread globally because it addressed universal human suffering. Buddhism does not teach humans to escape life but to understand the mind more deeply. It emphasizes awareness over impulsive reaction and peace over endless emotional chaos. In many ways, Buddhism became one of the humanity's earliest psychological systems for emotional healing and mental clarity. Modern mental health struggles have made Buddhist principles more relevant than ever before. Anxiety, burnout, emotional exhaustion, overthinking, stress, comparison, and psychological instability affect millions globally. Buddhist mindfulness practices are now used worldwide because they help humans become aware of their thoughts rather than becoming trapped inside them. Mindfulness teaches emotional observation without panic or overreaction. Scientific research increasingly supports meditation and mindfulness practices for improving emotional stability, focus, stress reduction, and psychological resilience. Buddhism teaches that peace is not created by controlling the external world, but by understanding the internal mind. In a world constantly demanding attention, stimulation, and emotional reaction, Buddhist philosophy offers humans something increasingly rare: stillness, awareness, and psychological clarity. Utilitarianism became one of the most influential philosophies in the modern governance, economics, and public policy because it introduced a powerful but controversial question: what decision creates the greatest good for the greatest number of people? This philosophy focuses less on emotions and more on the outcomes. Utilitarian thinkers believed actions should be judged primarily by their consequences rather than intentions alone. If an action benefits society overall, many utilitarian thinkers consider it morally justified even if some individuals experience discomfort or the sacrifice. This idea heavily influenced legal systems, economic planning, healthcare policy, military decisions, and political leadership across the modern world. Governments constantly face utilitarian dilemmas. For example, during national crisis, leaders may restrict certain freedoms to protect larger populations. Economic systems may prioritize growth strategies that benefit millions while disadvantaging smaller groups temporarily. Utilitarianism therefore became deeply connected with practical governance and policy making. However, this philosophy also created serious ethical concerns because critics argue that protecting the majority can sometimes ignore individual suffering and human rights. Utilitarianism forces societies to ask extremely difficult moral questions about fairness, sacrifice, responsibility, and collective survival. Modern governments use utilitarian thinking constantly, often without citizens realizing it. Healthcare systems decide how to allocate limited resources. Economic policies attempt to maximize national growth. Public infrastructure projects prioritize benefits for larger populations. During emergencies, governments make decisions balancing individuals' freedom against collective safety. Utilitarian philosophy became especially visible during global crises where leaders had to make difficult choices affecting millions of people simultaneously. The major debate within utilitarianism remains deeply controversial. Should society prioritize collective benefit or individual rights? Authors argue that civilizations survive when decisions maximize overall stability and the prosperity. Critics warn that sacrificing minority interests for majority benefit can become dangerous and morally unjust. Modern societies continuously struggle with this balance in areas like healthcare, taxation, surveillance, law enforcement, and economic planning. Utilitarianism therefore became one of the most powerful and controversial foundations of modern governance because it attempts to transform morality into measurable social outcomes. Nihilism became one of the darkest and most psychological, unsettling philosophies in the human history because it questions whether life has any objective meaning at all. Nihilistic thinkers argued that traditional systems of meaning, religion, morality, social expectations, and even purpose itself may not possess absolute truth. According to nihilism, humans may exist in an indifferent universe without predetermined meaning or cosmic purpose. This idea deeply disturbed many societies because humans psychologically depend on meaning for emotional stability and the motivation. If life truly has no meaning, many people fear that morality, ambition, hope, and purpose may collapse entirely. Nihilism became especially influential during periods of war, social collapses, cultural instability, and growing distrust in the traditional institutions. While some individuals interpreted nihilism as emotional hopelessness, others viewed it differently. Some thinkers argued that if no objective meaning exists, humans became free to create their own meaning independently. Nihilism therefore became both psychologically dangerous and strangely liberating depending on how individuals responded to it. This philosophy exposed one of humanity's deepest fears, the fear that existence itself may not provide guaranteed purpose. Modern society increasingly reflects nihilistic symptoms, especially among younger generations struggling with identity, burnout, loneliness, and emotional emptiness. Social media intensified these feelings by creating constant comparison, superficial validation, and endless consumption without deeper fulfillment. Many individuals feel disconnected despite being digitally connected to thousands of people. Modern humans often experiences success externally while internally feeling emotionally exhausted and purposeless. Nihilism became increasingly relevant because many traditional systems that once provided meaning, religion, community structures, stable identities, and long-term certainty, weakened significantly in the modern society. As a result, people increasingly ask difficult questions. Does anything truly matter? Is success enough to create fulfillment? And why do humans still feel empty even after achieving the goals? Psychologists increasingly recognize that humans require meaning psychologically to maintain emotional resilience and motivation. Without purpose, emotional instability grows. And this is why modern societies experience rising levels of anxiety, depression, and existential confusion despite material advancement. Nihilism reveals that human beings may survive physically without meaning, but psychologically they struggle deeply without it. Humanism emerged as one of the most hopeful philosophies in the human civilization because it emphasized the value, dignity, and the potential of human beings themselves. Humanist thinkers believed humans possess the ability to grow intellectually, morally, creatively, and socially, rather than focusing entirely on divine authority or rigid systems. Humanism emphasized human capability, compassion, education, reason, and ethical responsibility. This philosophy strongly influenced the Renaissance period, scientific development, democracy, educational systems, human rights movements, and modern humanitarian values. Humanism helped encourage independent thinking, artistic expression, scientific curiosity, and belief in human progress. At its core, humanism teaches that every human life possesses value and dignity, regardless of social status, wealth, or background. This philosophy inspired many movements advocating equality, education, social justice, and individual freedom. Humanism therefore became deeply connected with the modern civilization's belief in human potential and collective progress. Humanism transformed leadership philosophy by emphasizing empathy, fairness, emotional intelligence, and human development rather than domination and the fear. Humanistic leadership believes people are not merely workers, followers, or economic tools. They are human beings with emotions, dreams, fears, creativity, and potential. Great humanistic leaders focus on helping people grow rather than simply extracting productivity from them. This leadership philosophy values compassion, respect, trust, communication, emotional safety, and long term human development. Modern organizations increasingly recognize that psychologically healthy workplaces often produce stronger innovation, loyalty, collaboration, and sustainable performance. Humanistic leadership also became important because many historical leadership systems relied heavily on fear, control, humiliation, or rigid hierarchy. Humanism challenged those systems by arguing that people perform best when they feel respected and valued. In modern leadership psychology, empathy is no longer viewed as weakness. It is increasingly recognized as strategic intelligence capable of strengthening organizations and societies alike. Pragmatism introduced a highly practical philosophy centered around results, adaptability, experimentation, and real world effectiveness. Pragmatic thinkers believed truth should not remain purely theoretical. Instead, ideas should be tested through practical outcomes. According to pragmatism, beliefs became valuable when they actually improve real life situations. This philosophy became highly influential in the modern businesses, innovation, education, technology, and problem solving cultures because it encourages flexibility rather than rigid ideology. Pragmatism teaches that changing conditions require adaptive thinking. Instead of blindly protecting outdated systems, pragmatic leaders adjust strategies based on reality. This mindset became extremely important during periods of rapid scientific advancement, technological disruption, and global economic changes. Pragmatism values experimentation over perfection and progress over rigid philosophical purity. In many ways, modern entrepreneurship strongly reflects pragmatic philosophy because businesses survive by adapting continuously to changing markets and human needs. Modern businesses survive through adaptability. Markets change rapidly, consumer behavior evolves constantly, technology disrupts industries overnight. Pragmatism, therefore, became one of the most important philosophies in the business's success. Companies that refuse to adapt often collapse regardless of past success. Pragmatic organizations continuously test ideas, experiment with innovation, solve problems creatively, and respond quickly to changing environments. Many successful entrepreneurs follow pragmatic thinking even without realizing it. They focus on solutions rather than ideological rigidity. Pragmatism also shaped modern startup culture where experimentation, flexibility, calculated risk taking, and rapid learning became essential for survival. This philosophy teaches that intelligence alone is not enough. Adaptability determines long term success. In a world changing faster than ever before, pragmatism became one of the civilization's most practical survival philosophies. Rationalism became one of the foundational philosophies behind science, mathematics, logic, and modern intellectual development. Rationalist thinkers believed the reason and logic are the primary sources of knowledge rather than emotions, superstition, or blind belief. This philosophy encouraged humans to question assumptions, seek evidences, apply structured thinking, and understand reality systematically. Rationalism played a major role in scientific revolutions because it promoted observation, logical analysis, mathematical reasoning, and intellectual skepticism. Modern technology, engineering, medicine, economics, and scientific research all reflect rationalist influence. Rationalism teaches humans to separate emotional reaction from logical evaluation. It encourages critical thinking instead of blind acceptance. However, rationalism also created debate because humans are not purely logical creatures. Emotions, instincts, culture, and social influence continue affecting human behavior deeply. Rationalism, therefore, became both a powerful intellectual system and an ongoing challenge for emotionally driven human psychology. Modern humans constantly balance logic and emotions. Leaders make strategic decisions emotionally while believing they are acting rationally. Consumers purchase products emotionally and later justify purchases logically. Social movements often spread through emotional influence faster than logical evidence. Rationalism teaches the importance of objective thinking, but emotional psychology remains deeply embedded within human nature. This tension between logic and emotions shapes politics, leadership, relationships, media, and social conflict globally. Pure logic without empathy can become cold and disconnected. Pure emotions without logic can become chaotic and stable. Modern society therefore continuously struggles to balance rational thinking with emotional intelligences. Great leaders often succeed not because they eliminate emotion, but because they balance logic, empathy, intuition, and critical thinking together wisely. Capitalism became one of the most influential economic philosophies in modern history because it connected economic freedom with innovation, competition, and wealth creation. Capitalist philosophy argues that individuals and businesses should have freedom to produce, trade, invest, and compete within the markets. Supporters believe competition drives innovation, efficiency, entrepreneurship, and economic growth. Capitalism helped to fuel industrial revolutions, technological advancement, business expansion, and global trade systems. It encouraged ambition, creativity, investment, and risk taking. Many modern economies operate largely through capitalist principles where markets influence production, pricing, and economic behavior. Capitalism transformed global civilization dramatically by accelerating economic productivity and technological development. However, capitalism also created major debates regarding inequality, wealth creation, labor exploitation, consumerism, and economic imbalance. While capitalism created enormous prosperity for many societies, critics argue it can also intensify social inequality when left uncontrolled. This debate surrounding capitalism remains one of the biggest ideological conflicts in the modern society. Supporters argue capitalism rewards innovation, hard work, entrepreneurship, and efficiency. They believe economic freedom creates opportunities for individuals to improve their life and contribute creatively to the society. Critics, however, argue capitalism can create extreme wealth inequality, emotional burnout, corporate exploitation, and social imbalance when profit becomes society's highest priority. Modern societies continuously struggle to balance economic growth with human well-being. Questions surrounding fair wages, healthcare access, corporate power, environmental sustainability, and social equality are deeply connected to capitalist philosophy. This controversy reveals an important truth about philosophy itself. Every philosophy creates a strength and weakness depending on how humans apply it. No system remains perfect permanently because human societies constantly evolve. Throughout the history, philosophies have continuously competed against one another because different philosophies prioritize different human values. Stoicism prioritizes discipline, existentialism prioritizes personal meaning, humanism prioritizes dignity and the compassion, rationalism prioritizes logic, capitalism prioritizes economic freedom, Buddhism prioritizes inner peace. Conflicts between philosophies shape civilizations constantly because societies must choose which values to prioritize most strongly. Modern societies struggle between freedom and stability, ambition and peace, competition and equality, logic and emotion, individuality and collective responsibility. Philosophical conflicts, therefore, exist beneath almost every major political, social, economic, and psychological debate in the modern civilization. Humanity's future will continue being shaped by which ideas societies choose to embrace or reject. Every leader, consciously or unconsciously, follows a philosophy. Some leaders operate through fear and control, others lead through empathy and the trust. Some prioritize results above people, while others prioritize human growth alongside performance. Leadership styles reflect philosophical beliefs about human nature itself. A leader who believes humans are naturally lazy leads differently from one who believes humans thrive through purpose and support. Leadership therefore becomes philosophy in action. Stoic leaders emphasize emotional control and discipline. Humanistic leaders emphasize empathy and development. Pragmatic leaders emphasize adaptability and the results. The rational leaders emphasize evidences and the strategy. Philosophies shape how leaders communicate, make decisions, handle conflict, build culture, and influence the society. Great leadership, therefore, requires understanding not only systems and strategies, but also the philosophical beliefs driving the human behavior underneath. Modern civilization experiences constant philosophical conflict. Society debates freedom versus control, ambition versus peace, technology versus humanity, emotional expression versus a rational discipline, and individuality versus collective responsibility. Social media intensified these conflicts because humans are exposed to competing worldviews constantly. Some people believe unlimited freedom creates the progress. Others believe too much freedom creates instability. Some believe Emotional expression strengthens society, while others believe excessive emotionalism weakens resilience. These philosophical tensions influence politics, education, business, relationships, leadership, and mental health globally. Modern controversies reveal that philosophy never disappeared. It simply evolved into modern forms hidden inside culture, media, economics, and social behavior. As we conclude this journey through 10 philosophies that changed human thinking forever, one truth becomes undeniable. Ideas shape civilizations long before actions do. Philosophies influence how humans understand reality, leadership, morality, success, suffering, identity, freedom, and purpose. Entire nations rise or collapse depending on the ideas they embrace. Human beings often focus only on visible events while ignoring the invisible philosophies, shaping those events underneath. But history repeatedly proves that ideas are among the most powerful forces humanity has ever created. The philosophies explored today continue influencing modern life every single day, whether the people recognize them or not. And perhaps the most important lesson is this: humans must think carefully about the ideas they follow because ideas eventually shape both individuals and the civilizations. So, if you have enjoyed this deep exploration into philosophy, leadership, psychology, and the civilization, like this video, comment your favorite philosophy below, share this with others interested in deep thinking and the human history, subscribe for more ultra detailed content on the leadership, history, psychology, civilizations, and the human behavior, because ultimately ideas shape the future.